What a shit show. Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul. We're going to go through the entire card and recap it. We'll talk about the main event, the Mayweather-Paul fight. We'll talk about the co-main event, but we're first going to start it off early on in the night and go through the prelims. Make sure you guys smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you guys are new here. Let's talk about this first fight. Jaleel Hackett gets a knockout win over Angelo Diaz, as pretty much everybody would have expected. He gets that knockout victory and moves forward as a prospect. Dorian Khan early on beats Jonathan Gray. Expected again. These are the Mayweather staple guys getting wins. Adrian Benton beats Pedro Angel Cruz. A little bit more competitive than the other bouts because Cruz was not an absolute bum. But Adrian Benton does get the decision in that matchup. Another Mayweather staple. And then Giancarlos Torres beats Zach Kuhn in a very predictable outcome matchup. So perfect predictions for all of these ones right here. But easy to pick with the skill set differences, which were fairly evident from a second of film watching. Now, Brian Maxwell, Chad Ochocinco, I did think Ochocinco would somehow find a way to win, but didn't know they weren't scoring the fight until obviously we saw it. They're doing the exhibition rules. Ochocinco, though, had some decent moments in the first, second, and maybe even third round, but he was dropped in that third round. Truly, the fight is like a draw there. For Brian Maxwell, not a great performance. He felt like he made a name for himself, but I do feel like if he would have went out there and knocked out Ochocinco, that would have been like, oh, this is what a real bare-knuckle fighter does to a guy that doesn't fight stand-up professionally or anything professionally. He plays football, but had kind of a difficult time. Still got the draw, goes the distance, made some money, Brian Maxwell, and obviously Ochocinco got the great experience of boxing in a serious bout versus somebody that has fought. Even though 0-1 is a pro boxer, still is a professional boxer nonetheless. Move on up. Truly the best fight of the night. Luis Arias and Jared Hurd. We'll click on this one because it's worth talking about. Huge underdog. Luis Arias shocks Jared Hurd. His pressure was incredible. His overhands were excellent. He was all over Jared Hurd. He's planning on dropping to 54 as well. Keep an eye on Luis Arias. Bounces back from a disappointing defeat. He had a few bad outcomes. He had the loss to Luke Keeler. This was actually a draw, not a loss to Gabe Rosado. And then he lost to Danny Jacobs as well. Wow, that's 2017. So it'd been some years since he had a win. But then he beats Jared Hurd on a split decision. For Hurd, this just his second professional loss. He was not expected to lose this fight. He thought maybe he could come on strong late against Arias. I will say, having the rain come down, and for some reason this event's outside in South Florida, water's getting into the ring, gave a little bit time for Arias to rest a bit more than normally he would have, and he needed that rest because his crazy volume style, not easy to maintain for 10 rounds. Hurd had a couple rounds. Arias gets it done, gets to win by a split decision. Personally, I did have Arias winning slightly as well. Hurd did also land a knockdown, but it was a strange fight with a wet canvas. That big Cash App sign in the middle definitely was throwing the fighters off because they both clearly slipped on it multiple times throughout this fight. Unfortunate outcome for Hurd. Arias moves forward. Maybe they do a rematch at 54. I don't know exactly what's next, but disappointing defeat for Jared Hurd, who was really looking to bounce back this year and start pushing towards a potential world title challenge again, but gonna be set back a bit farther after this disappointing loss to Arias, who keeps his career alive. He said he thought about retiring. People told him he should retire, but he gets a big win against Jared Hurd and maybe another big payday coming soon for Luis Arias. Let's get to the co-main event. No real Rocky. 3 knockdowns. It's over for Dervin Colina, who I was saying, is really the Rocky story. Some 15-0 guy fighting in Venezuela against pretty much nobodies. And Badu Jack destroyed him. It wasn't close, as a real Rocky story probably would go. Dervin Colina gets absolutely dominated by Badu Jack. Big win for Jack? No, but it's still a victory nonetheless. Getting some victories after years of just inconsistent results. Not on his real part, besides going to decision too often. Just disappointing decisions that didn't go his way. Badu Jack, Jean Pascal potentially rescheduled. Maybe somehow he finds himself fighting against Marcus Brown in a rematch. We'll see what they end up doing for Badu Jack, but he's still a player at 175, and I'm not opposed to the Jean Pascal rematch, but also Jack may consider moving back up to that cruiserweight division. If it's not a big fight at 75, he's going up to cruiserweight. I don't know necessarily how great he'll do against the top cruiserweights, but he is a pretty technical boxer, and Badu Jack is a fun guy to watch. 37, though, definitely towards potentially the tail end of his career rather than his prime. But that was the co-main event, and now we have to talk about it. What was Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul. I have no idea. KSI beat Logan Paul. Floyd Mayweather technically draws with him. They go the distance. Floyd Mayweather, I've always felt he was a bit overrated throughout his career, handpicking the perfect matchups. Logan Paul goes 8 rounds. For Paul, this was an excellent moment, sure, but he was doing things that I don't think are any bit legal. Can you hold constantly in boxing? No. I'm pretty sure they deduct a point. Oh, wait, it's an exhibition. There's no points. There's no points to deduct. The referee was terrible for the fight. He wasn't getting involved. He was relying on them to break up way too much. It was a terrible main event, and I genuinely had a strong disdain for it. I was enjoying calling it for everybody watching live because I was enjoying the stream. But as far as the fight, terrible. Would never want to see that again. Don't want to see Floyd Mayweather back in a ring anytime soon. I think his time is well past. And if he fought Canelo Alvarez today, I think he would get seriously hurt. So don't fight Canelo. Floyd, retire in peace, because Logan Paul and him put on a shit show of an event. Can't shame Paul. He's an 0-1 boxer who's just some jacked kid that happens to be pretty athletic and is training pretty hard. I mean, I give him the credit. He's pretty jacked. He's pretty swole. He's probably on some sauce because he looks incredibly jacked and lean at the same time. Floyd Mayweather looked like an old man in there at 44. He's going to be 45 in 2022. Floyd Mayweather's time is well behind him. Disappointing fight. Absolutely honestly, it was a terrible fight. I didn't enjoy pretty much any of it, maybe besides that one Floyd Mayweather hook that he landed. Logan touched him a little bit. Weird fight, bad fight. A fight I would never want to see back. Floyd, way to damage the legacy of Floyd Mayweather. I mean, he gets talked about as the best boxer of the last 100 years. I strongly disagree. I think he was a very good boxer. Maybe, I guess you have to say great, because 15-0, but certain matchups were handpicked, certain decisions went his way, and in this fight here, he looked trash against Logan, but really Logan also looked terrible too. It was an awful match. It was a fight that shouldn't have happened, and because it was an exhibition, we got absolutely steeled out of an entertaining fight because the holding was just constant by Logan Paul. Terrible fight, but I did enjoy that Luis Arias and Jarrett Hurd fight. Would never want to see this spectacle crap again. I hope that the Logan Paul boxing high-level pro saga ends, because it's a real joke, and hopefully they don't try to sell some type of rematch between these two. Jake Paul, on the other hand, fighting against Tyron Woodley, I won't shame it, because at the end of the day, at least Woodley comes from MMA. Legendary boxing champion versus Paul. I will have to say, you get an MMA fighter of any size similar to Paul. I think he beats Floyd Mayweather in boxing, so I guess that's something we know now. But disappointing fight, boring, truly fight, terrible main event. Some okay action throughout the card, and a fucking epic fight between Jarrett Hurd and Luis Arias. Shout out to these guys for saving the event for me. This was a show, and I really enjoyed it, but otherwise, pretty dull event and a really sour main event. Leaves a bad taste in the mouth, but that is pretty much it for the full fight card recap. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new here too. Follow my social media, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and I will see you all in the next video.